So everything from routing, SD-WAN, even things like DOS, CGNAT, carrier-grade NAT, DHCP server and relay, firewall, stateful firewall, next-gen firewall, IPS, IDS, antivirus, malware. So we focused on all of those functions and brought all of that together into a single solution. That doesn't exist in the market today. And what we've created by doing that is a software platform that gives you contextual visibility and the ability to program contextual policy.
I'm here in San Jose at Versa Networks, where I spoke with Kelly Ahuja, the CEO of Versa Networks. We talked about the SD-WAN market, the evolution of Versa as a company, how big this space is becoming. The SD-WAN market is incredibly big and it's getting bigger. How that company stays focused, and also the importance of security in an SD-WAN solution. So Kelly, first things first, how big is Versa as a company and how big has it grown in the last year?
Phil, things are going really, really good. We're winning, we're innovating, and we're growing. We've been executing over the past year, winning in service provider, winning in enterprise, and driving new innovations, and also growing as a company. We more than doubled in the last year. We're well over 200 employees now and continuing to hire more across the world.
That's fantastic. What's the payoff for the enterprise customer when they deploy your technology? Of course, it's about fewer boxes in their network and their IT network, but what else are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, our approach is different than most of the other folks out there. We focus on a software-defined branch, which really takes multiple functions that might be at a branch and collapse it down into a single piece of software. And when you do the total cost of ownership of our solution versus competitor solution, most of the competitors get you cost savings with just MPLS. The customer base that we're talking to, if they have MPLS today, they're not getting rid of it immediately. They're actually going to keep it for a while. Mm-hmm. So, but over time, they may consider moving off of it. But we're actually showing TCO analysis to customers of tens of millions of dollars of savings over multiple years. One customer that had 50 locations actually did their analysis and they shared it with us, and it was in excess of $20 million over 5 years was their savings.
It's interesting too, because it's not just about when SD-WAN really first got going, it was about saving that bandwidth, using the lower price connections, aggregating connections, that sort of thing. With virtualization, and especially the technology you're talking about, they're just saving all over the place, not just in the connections, but also in the applications, right?
Well, yes, but the real reasons why customers have been doing this is one, to improve the resiliency, and two, to get more control. Now, resiliency, let me give you a data point. Mm-hmm. One customer told us that in this year, because of the SD-WAN solution that they've been deploying with Versa, they've actually avoided 230 hours of downtime. Because in this period alone last year, they had 120 outages across their sites that they were going to have. And because those 120 sites, they would have had 230 hours of downtime where network issues or other issues would have actually shut down their business in these locations for a while. And we've actually helped them avoid that. So I don't know, yes, on the part that you mentioned on application and application experience, but the resiliency that we can provide with the solution is absolutely phenomenal. And the control is another very important aspect.
Yeah, let's get into that, because I think that's also a great differentiator for you guys in the market, is the level of control that you're giving service providers and enterprise customers. How does that level of control manifest itself to either operational savings or cost savings in terms of running a network long term?
Massive. Right. I was talking to one customer and he was telling me, he says, "Hey Kelly, I've got a CEO. When he goes from one place to the other, I want a policy associated with him as opposed to the policy that everybody else is going to have at that site when they're coming in every day." So they wanted to have a policy framework where there was an override if a C-level executive was going to go from site to site, because they want him to be able to do whatever he wants. He wants to go to Spotify, he should be able to go to Spotify.
Right.
He wants to go to something else, or she wants to go to something else, they should be able to do that. So allowing that framework to be more dynamic as opposed to statically having to go change it every time that he's going to go someplace is massive amount of savings in just configuration changes in the operation side and maintenance side. So those are kind of examples that you can think about where more the dynamic nature of the network, the dynamic nature of policy control is what we're enabling, not just down to the application level, but application, user, device, and perhaps even the destination that you're going to.
Yeah, and because of all of that, variety and how you're sort of helping customers program their network and program policies, the market seems bigger now than when we first started talking about SD-WAN as just a connection replacement. How big do you think this market's going to get?
Well, early on, there was a lot of numbers that were thrown out, and there's still a lot of numbers out there, and the numbers vary quite a bit. And what we're finding is that customers of all sizes, customers in all verticals could use this. Many of them have been using either just a router, standard router with a managed internet service, or a non-managed internet service at their locations. But what we're finding is everyone is looking for an approach where they can actually have a managed network and security, for example. And that may go from an SMB to a mid-market to a Fortune 2000 to a Fortune 500 to a Fortune 10 type customer. So the market's very broad, and no matter which kind of a customer you are, everyone's wanting to connect to the internet.
Right.
And having a secure connection to the internet with managed kind of an internet access is very, very important. And you want to be able to control what applications you allow at your site. Even if you're Joe's Radiator, for example, Joe's Radiator is going to have customers coming in, and they're going to have guest Wi-Fi. He wants to make sure that the guest Wi-Fi is actually getting good access, but at the same time, not at the expense of his point-of-sale transactions that have to go on, or other things, business-related applications that have to run.
Now, because it's such a broad market, because there's a lot of opportunity here, more than, like I said, we even initially realized. Once you sort of start adding it all together, and this becomes more of the de facto way of networking. It suggests too that the competitive space is going to be ramping up. So how does Versa distinguish itself among competitors, and then also how do you stay focused enough to not try to address everything all at once?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I look at the space is there's a traditional networking players who have tried to kind of embrace SD-WAN. The second is security players that have tried to kind of figure out how to go address this. And so the market is coming at it both from incumbents or startups, and whether it's WAN optimization players or router players or next-gen firewall players, everyone's realizing that there's something that they need to do more than what they've been doing today. We as a company were born in the cloud for the cloud age and a software world. While many of these companies still rely on hardware as how they create value and capture value, we've always been about being software focused and subscription focused. And the other part is we focused on not a part of the problem, which is a point product to do SD-WAN. We focused on what you need to do in a branch. What do you need to do in a head office? What do you need to do when you connect that to the cloud? So we focus on a very broad set of functions that will be required. So everything from routing, SD-WAN, even things like DOS, CGNAT, carrier-grade NAT, DHCP server and relay, firewall, stateful firewall, next-gen firewall, IPS, IDS, antivirus malware. So we focused on all of those functions and brought all of that together into a single solution. That doesn't exist in the market today. And what we've created by doing that is a software platform that gives you contextual visibility and the ability to program contextual policy.
Okay. In the go-to-market side of the business, now you sell directly to enterprises. You also sell through service providers, and you might use it as a managed service. When you're selling through the service providers, what has been the real pull and attraction from those service providers looking at Versa and going, we want this solution, we have to be able to offer this?
Right, so first let's talk about just a clarity, because we have worked with service providers since the company was founded. And we've been very successful with service providers, and we have lots of partners around the globe. And the reason why they like us is that they can actually take us and bring us in on-prem, deploy their own cloud-managed and networking and security solution, and offer that to a variety of markets. A single solution, single architecture that can go address large enterprises, the mid-market, and SMB. So that's one thing that differentiates us. One thing that does that. Second thing is they can go use us to go sell a managed router or a managed SD-WAN device or a managed security or a combination of all three.
Okay.
And that's really important because in certain segments of the market, the cost structure to go offer that service is very important. So for example, Verizon just announced that they're using Versa for Verizon Business Markets.
Okay.
Now business markets are typically mid-size, mid-market, and there you cannot have a multi-VNF type approach or anything like that. It's got to be a package solution which does network and security. So that's a great example of us going in there. But we're also part of Verizon VNS, for example, where they're using us in virtual network services, where we're part of the SD-WAN portfolio that they offer to their customers, along with other VNFs as well.
So what's Versa doing in security, and how are you setting yourself apart again in this marketplace?
Well, that's the great question, because that's one thing that differentiates Versa from the rest of the pack. Our solution integrates security with everything else. And this is really important because as SD-WAN is happening, let's talk about why SD-WAN is happening. SD-WAN is happening because customers are embracing digital transformation in which they're moving to a multi-cloud or a SaaS type environment. The old model of hub and spoke to a data center or a corporate office and then going to the internet firewall is no longer working. So what customers are doing is they're going to their endpoints, which is the end customer locations where their employees are or someone else is, and they want to get split tunnel, which is some traffic going over the VPN to the head office or site to site, and other traffic being offloaded directly to the internet right at that site. When you do that, now you've moved your internet perimeter from the data center or the HQ to every location in the corporation. Right. Now, when you do that, now you need to worry about security at each location. Yeah. Now, security at this location now has to be worried about in multiple contexts. One is traffic going to the web, or traffic entering from the web. So I need to have a security solution to do that. Some customers choose a cloud-based security offer to do this, but they also need on-prem security, whether they use a cloud-based security or not. Why do they need on-prem security? Some may actually want more control on the premise because they need to do LAN-based segmentation of traffic. Okay. Some customers say, I want to take guest Wi-Fi and my corporate traffic and segment them. In banking, they may say, I want retail, my ATM separated from my investment banking. Sure. So for compliance reasons. And when they do that, they need some security at that premise. In addition, if they're going to the internet directly at that site, they may need security there, or perhaps a cloud-based security offer, really their choice. So security has become a fundamental decision criteria for SD-WAN. And we're actually enjoying many wins against our competitors because we have security embedded. In fact, we recently conducted a testing with NSS Labs. So I would guide the viewers to go check out the NSS Labs website and check out the results of the recent testing.
It's an exciting area to track, and we're glad you're part of it. Kelly, thanks for having us here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.